Hi, Jaybird here from Jaybird's Nest, Jay Bradford. Today I want to talk to you about the anatomy of change. Studies have been done, and I can't think of the name of the lady, but she's the one, Kubler-Ross, who did the stages of grief. She also did a study on change, and it was determined that the stages we go through for a change are very similar to the stages we go through as grief. So today I want to talk to you about the first three stages. Well, 3.5 stages. The first stage is shock, and that is when we're presented that initial presentation of the change. Your boss calls you in his office and says, "Oh, by the way, we're transferring you to Outer Mongolia." Okay? Or your spouse dies, or you lose a child, or your husband comes home and says, "Honey, I quit my job. You need to go to work." Or any number of things like that. Doesn't have to be negative. It can be a positive change. It can be you deciding that you want to start a business. But it's that initial stage when we first realize that the change is there and we're surprised by it, and there it is. Then the second stage is denial. And that's when we can't believe it's happening. It's either too good to be true or it's the worst thing that's ever happened to us. And we look for some kind of evidence that it's not true, that we either don't get to do it or that we don't have to go through it. I can use me as an example. My husband and I knew he was dying for 2 years before he did. The last year of his life, he had Alzheimer's. He did not recognize me until the last day. And being a nurse, I was fully prepared for his death. I knew it was coming. I made what preparations I could and waited. And when he died, I was in what I call nurse mode. I was very clinical. I didn't cry. I called the hospice nurse. I called the doctor. I called the funeral home. When the hospice nurse got there, we disposed of the narcotics. The funeral home came and got his body. And then the hospice nurse left. And I sat down and I didn't fall apart, but I was in this state of shock where I almost couldn't breathe. It was like, he can't be gone. And I went straight from he's gone to no, he can't be gone. He isn't really gone. He can't. He isn't gone. And I walked in the room where I had his hospital bed and it was empty. And then I went into the third stage, which is frustration, which was, why did he have to die and leave me here? Why did he leave me in this situation? What am I going to do now? All of this, I still had to deal with getting the medical equipment back to the supply company. I had to deal with disposing of the rest of his medications. I had to go to the funeral home and take care of the preparations there, and I had to go to the county seat and get certificates of death and all of this stuff. I had to notify the insurance company. I had to notify his pension, the people who do his pension, the steel mill. I had all this notifying to do and all this paperwork to do, and I was frustrated because I didn't want to do it. It was like, ugh. And Okay, I've moved cross country too for a job. In that case, it was the preparation for the move. It was the packing and the setting up the arrangements for the move and the actual driving cross country and then looking for a house and getting started in the job and not knowing anything about where you're living and learning about that. And so it's very similar, the grief and the change thing. The fourth stage is the depression. That's when you're at your lowest about the change. That's when you're dreading it, good or bad. You're still thinking, like starting a business. This is something you want to do. You're excited about it. But you get to the low point where you think, I can't do this. What am I thinking? I don't have finances. I don't have the expertise. I don't have the business education. I don't have to where you make yourself so depressed that one of two things happen. You either start up the other side of the change or you stay in this low spot and you give up. After my husband died, I gave up for 4 years, almost 4 years. I didn't do anything. I only went out to town when I absolutely had to get groceries. I didn't invite people over. I didn't want people over. Didn't go to other people's houses. Didn't accept invitations to do stuff. I avoided my life. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until about 3.5 years into it. And all of a sudden I woke up one day and I was like, I've been a grief zombie. I've just been existing. I'm not really doing anything. And during this time, my mother also died. So I was suddenly totally alone. And for the first time in my life, I was allowed to make my own decisions. No one else was telling me what I had to do. No one else was telling me what I should do. No one else was saying, well, what about this and what about that? It was totally my decision what I did next, whether I stayed where I am or I moved, whether I started my consulting business back up or not, whether I cut my hair or let it grow. It didn't matter. It was now my decision. So once I realized that, then I started back up that other side. The first 3-4 stages of a change are difficult. They lead to the depression. They lead to the low spot. They're the second guessing yourself. They're the not feeling adequate. It's the frustration of it. Everything you got to go through to make the change, which is usually kind of complicated because it's a lot of times it's not something you want to do. So you put your own roadblocks up. You self-sabotage so that deep down inside you're saying, well, maybe I won't have to change if this happens. And that can stop us in our tracks. That can put us in a holding pattern that actually prevents us from living our life. It can upset people around us. If we have close family and friends, it can upset them. They don't understand what's going on in our head, and we don't usually share it because we're not sure we're even feeling what we're feeling, It's the hard part of the change. Once you start up the other side and go through the other 3 changes, it's not so bad. But these first 4 are the hardest. They're where you doubt yourself. That's where fear, doubt, and unbelief come in. And they can destroy you if you let them. And I know you've heard me say it before if you've seen any of my other videos, but I have these little cards around the house, and they say, acknowledge the fear and do it anyway. And that's kind of been my mantra, because after my husband died, I was afraid. I had never lived alone. Well, I take that back. I had lived alone before, but it was a much different time. I was much younger, and I was in a job where I worked almost 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was a nurse in an operating room, and I took all the call. I volunteered for it because I wanted the money, number one. Number two, I wanted to be busy. So and my mother was still kind of telling me what to do. So I really wasn't alone. But now I was alone, and I had to take care of myself. But it took me 3.5 years to figure that out, and that's not a good thing. I went through some real health issues during that time because I wasn't taking care of myself. And now when I think about it, my husband would have been so disappointed in me if he'd have known what I did, because I've always been a strong woman. I've always been able to make quick decisions that were the right decisions and good for me. But I wasn't at this point. So I want you to think about, if you're facing a life change, if it's difficult for you, if you're stuck in that low point, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask someone that you know and love, a friend, someone you care about, to help you. And if you don't have anyone, then reach out to someone like me, not me necessarily, but someone like me that can coach you through it, help you through it. There's a lot of people out there that are very, very good at it, and their specialty is change, going through change. So just don't be alone. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to email a friend or email me. My email will be in the information below, and let me know what you're going through, and I will get back with you. I'll have the link for my website down there and my email address, and please leave a comment or email me. Let me know how you're doing. I know several of you are going through some really bad changes out there, and I want you to know I'm here for you. I will be here for you. I'll help you through it. And if you like the videos I've been giving, please like it and subscribe to my channel. It would be great to have you as part of the tribe, as they're calling it now, of followers. And I really enjoy doing this, and I hope that what I bring helps at least one of you. Okay, you have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Jaybird out.